All right, you're listening to Medley Challenge, coming to you live from Salt Lake City. Actually not live. It's recorded live, but you're not hearing it live.
Yep. From Salt Lake City International Airport.
Mark Cyrano, the Bergerac Hansen is on the line with me. I'm J.R. Torino, the Master Butcher, and we're talking about
what are we talking about
this week? Satanism and metal.
We could touch on that in metal, or maybe even just like religion period in metal. Well, Satanism, once again, like we've sort of talked about, like the Church of Satan isn't religious per se.
It's not, but they are considered a religion. They consider themselves a religion because they are registered with the United States government as a religion, and they do indeed pay taxes as a religion.
They shouldn't. I don't think they should pay taxes.
Well, they do because they're doing the right thing, but that also does not mean that they believe, quote, calling them a religion, that they worship mythological beings, because they do not.
I don't think paying taxes is the right thing.
Well, that's because you live on a ranch and you're going to overtake the government. But the idea is
overthrow
the example by paying taxes as a religion, even though they don't believe in mystical beings. So there you have it.
Yeah. Well, they're not perfect. Like I said, I would like them more if they didn't pay taxes.
Well, that's that kind of coincides with what we were talking about before I started recording. They don't also go around and harass, unlike the Satanic Temple, where they're being activist about things and putting up statues in some of the most redneck states in the country, like Oklahoma, and trying to fight people.
Yeah.
Not that I have a problem with rubbing people the wrong way like that deserve it, because why should they get their say and have it their way? But at the same time, putting up a Baphomet statue in Oklahoma is not going to solve any problems at all, if not create them more.
Yeah. Where does the Church of Satan, how are they funded? Is it through like dues? Do you pay dues?
When you join, there is an entry fee.
Okay.
And the reason why they do that, number one, aside from getting money to do what they do, the reason why they do that is to keep out all the fucking lunatics like you see on Facebook and MySpace that sacrifice cats, or they're going to go paint the Capitol building red, or just do all this dumb shit, because they don't do that. And that's why if a lot of people who are going to do that kind of shit, if they see a $200 fee, they're not going to do it. Only a few might actually go that route, and there are a few loonies that make their way in. But then once you're in, there's like a full-on, you've just paid your money to be in the Church of Satan, and that's about all you get. So, and you don't get anything, and what you get out of it is what you put into it, for the whole time. But once you pay that entry fee, you're in, but that's all you are. You're just like you walked into the auditorium for the basketball game, but you're in the nosebleed seats. So basically, it's by what you achieve, and if they just find out about it or whatever, like the central office, then they'll send you a thing in the mail that says you're upgraded to this status or that status, like warlock, and it doesn't mean anything. You don't get money or gifts or anything. It's just you get a title and this feeling of knowing you've accomplished something. And
you get like a certificate at least?
They'll give you a little document that says warlock, or high priest. But
what's the highest you could get without being the head of the...
I believe high priest, and then beyond that, there's I think there's a few orders, quote unquote, that are a few, just a select group of people, things like that. But let me think here. What was I going to say? There's a questionnaire where once you've joined, that if you want to actually be you get the card and the full-fledged membership. Otherwise, you just pay to join. You can say I'm in the Church of Satan, but then you get a full-fledged membership. You have to fill out this questionnaire, and it's not anything about how do you end world starving or anything like that. It's just basically how do you indulge yourself, and what kind of car do you drive, and what do you like to do, what kind of food do you like, and just it's very
kind of okay. It's almost like a.
They have to get a feel for who you are. So if you say something like, I like everything black and I like demons and darkness, they're probably going to raise a brow and go, okay, not this guy, which is probably what some people think they want to hear. It's not. But There are also questions like, if you agree, like, what are some of the tenets of the Church of Satan by Anton LaVey that you agree or disagree with, or give an example of you doing this, or things like that. It's been a long time since I filled it out. I can't remember all of it, but it's mostly like that. It's just kind of like a job application more than anything.
Yeah. Oh,
But
okay.
cool job application. Like, what do you like to do? What's your favorite music? What are your favorite movies? What do you think are some of the most satanic films of all time? And then that's a trick question right there, because their idea of satanic is not like,
Yeah, it's
like
not The Exorcist.
The Exorcist. It's fucking trash. So
What?
their idea of a satanic movie is like Rosemary's Baby or something, or things like that. Which rumored to have Anton LaVey playing the devil in it.
I've never seen that, but
I saw it. I didn't think it was that great. It was interesting, but my favorite movie, as far as, I mean, it's my favorite movie anyway, but my favorite movie that I think is like satanic is probably The Ninth Gate.
yeah, you told me about that.
That's
And I need to
Johnny.
watch it again now that I have that you sort of clarified a little bit of it
And The
for
Ninth
me.
Gate is a Johnny Depp film, and it's the only thing I've seen with him in it, other than maybe, unless you count Nightmare on Elm Street back in 1985 or whenever, 84 when it came out, and I watched it on HBO. But
Oh yeah, he was in that.
I didn't know it. I was just saw it online one time. That was he in that? I guess that was him. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Could
think
be.
that was like one of his first. Wait, no, his first thing was 21 Jump Street. I don't know.
But
I know
right
he was
now,
in that.
it's like, I don't care about the Pirates movies. I don't care about anything else he's been in. I don't care about the drug movies like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. But The Ninth Gate was a really good movie. It number one, it's dark and it's like got
Hmm.
this evil vibe to it. But it's just him trekking all over Europe searching for these satanic books and solving this riddle. And he's a
Uh-huh.
doubt, a skeptic. And at the end of the movie, he figures out the riddle, and then he decides he wants to claim this satanic power. And he does so at the end of the movie. And it's awesome. All those reasons, but also a lot of people didn't get it. They're like, that's the end. It just shows him walking into the castle. I'm like, don't you get it? Everybody was after this book because it was going to give him this evil power, and they didn't do it right. He figured out the secret, and he went back to the place to do it, and that's how the movie ended. Because now the ultimate skeptic is going in there to become this evil overlord of the human race. It's awesome. Are you kidding me? But everybody else,
Yeah.
I guess, a CGI giant Satan to come out and fight him or something, or I don't know, who knows.
Well,
But
no, I all I remember about the ending is I remember feeling like it kind of left me hanging. But now that you kind of clarified a little bit of it, I want to watch it again just
well,
to.
that's the thing. If you get it, you get it. Just like the Church of Satan. If you get it, then you can go in there. You'll be a Satanist. They'll accept you. If you're in there going, "Oh, Satan's going to overtake the world and destroy the cathedrals," like,
Yeah.
nope, it's not a death metal album. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know. Could a Christian technically join the Church of Satan?
A Christian? No.
Yeah, they couldn't. Even if
Why?
they like paid their dues and everything. Like, look, I believe
Why
in
would
Jesus,
they?
but I like your guys' philosophy on everything else.
Well, theoretically, if they espoused the correct things about who they are, then maybe. But then, if they were a Christian, that would not work anyway. That'd be like having a pie maker go in and fix your car. Like, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. So
Because I just figure, like, okay, Church of Satan is almost to me like a secular organization. Like say someone was like a Hindu. So yeah, so saying instead of like a Christian, what if it was a Hindu? Like, yeah, I believe in Vishnu and Gaia and all those things. But I also follow the philosophy of LaVey.
not really. The Church of Satan is an atheist organization, so you can't believe in any gods. If you do that, that's like the ultimate transgression.
They're an atheist organization, but they're also very much about individuality. So like, yeah, the organization itself couldn't be religious, but its individual members,
What
since
you're describing is the Satanic Temple.
nah, dude,
The
they're
Satanic Temple
losers.
takes you in no matter what, no matter who, no matter what you think, as long as you're a wayward soul and need somewhere to go. That's the Satanic Temple. And they say that they cherish LaVey's writings, but they really are is just a bunch of activists that go out and do whatever the fuck with like hillbillies and shit. So That's
All
not
right.
what Satan is. They don't take in wayward souls and broken people and all of that.
And
What's
that's
that?
our show. I don't know. You know, Satanism in music, it's kind of weird because I've never really.
Very few bands speak about Satanism in their music as it really is, and the ones who do
Yeah.
are people who are in the Church of Satan, like Acheron, Morbid Angel, and even Morbid Angel doesn't really talk about it quite that way. They did in the begin, or they did later. In the beginning, it was all like bleed for the devil, like Chapel of Ghouls, all of that. But and that's what death metal kids wanted to hear back then, anyway, and maybe even now. But later on, you saw David Vincent take Morbid Angel and that more hedonistic direction with like the Christians and the Lions and
Yeah.
domination and all of those that type of
Sure.
thing.
Because I always thought, like, I thought Morbid Angel's whole thing was about, like, kind of the Lovecraft mythos, you know, like the Necronomicon.
I think they did some of that. I mean, early on they started with the B movie Satanism, and it kind of morphed into like the real deal. And then after that, I don't know. It's weird because their second, i.e., actual third album, "Blessed Are the Sick," they had that classical painting on the front, and then of Lucifer, and then inside they're thanking Yog Sothoth and all these other like Lovecraftian demons. And like, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's death metal, I guess. But I thought you were Morbid Angel. I thought you guys were all about Satanism.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I remember, like, one of the very few interviews I've ever read of Trey Azagthoth. He was basically just talking about the Necronomicon the whole time. Like, you know, this is the shit.
I don't know why. It's just there are those who believe the Necronomicon is a real book that existed, and there are those who believe that it was created by H.P. Lovecraft, and there are those who believe that there's another book called Necronomicon that you can buy in paperback that is actually the real book. And in that book, it has a disclaimer saying, this book is real. It's not a fictional creation. Like, yeah, sure it is. Just like the Bible.
Yeah. But the Bible wasn't written by a mad Arab.
Yeah. Oh, it kind of was, actually. Or as a
Yeah,
mad guy.
a bunch of Arabs. Mad Arabs.
Is it Arabs or Arabs?
It's Arabs, according to
You're
Bugs
saying
Bunny.
Arabs. That's the American way. Like that old
Bugs
comics.
Bunny.
Ahab, the Arab.
Yeah, he is an Arab.
Who
But
was
that was that Bugs Bunny cartoon. Harem Scarum was the title.
No, but that was a song. It was an actual like 50s or 60s like pop song. Like it was in that comedy culture of kind of rock or pop music, kind of like Monster Mash and all that stuff. One-eyed
Purple
flying
People
purple
Eater.
people.
Satanism in music has a rich history. Was there Satanism in other music before metal?
Well, that's one of the things you learn in the Church of Satan. Is Anton LaVey was very much into. He hated rock music and metal music, which is funny
Yeah, he
because
liked jazz.
not even that, not even jazz so much as he did just like big band and swing and a lot of classical. And Peter Gilmore, the current high priest of the COS, is a very much a classical music kind of person. Like even going to I think it's Ishiro Honda, the guy who did the Godzilla movies. I can't remember if that was the musician or the director of it. I think that was the director. Well, anyways, classical is very big. Big band and swing is always regarded as satanic, hence the Mephisto waltz, things like that. Anton LaVey grew up in the time of like ragtime, that kind of stuff, like post ragtime. So all of that's important to him. To me, not so much, but not necessarily metal and all of that, although it's there.
Other than Mephisto Waltz, was there any other, like, there's not any classical composers that claim to be Satanists, like, as far as I
Actually,
know.
I don't know about that. There's stories about that certain classical composers like were not religious, but they could not come out in the day and age they lived in and say that they weren't, or they'd be burned at the stake. A
Sure.
lot of them were coerced or otherwise forced to write musical scores for religious things like churches or gatherings or events, and so they've done that, but they weren't necessarily sharing those values or beliefs. I can't remember what ones were like that, but if you listen to, I mentioned sending you that Anton LaVey recording I have.
Yeah.
the Black Mass CD. At first, it has a Black Mass, but after that, it has just LaVey talking in a room, but underneath his voice is just classical music tracks, and some of that is Beethoven. I can't remember. I don't know my classical that well to name the composers, but it's all stuff you'll recognize, especially Beethoven's Symphony Number 7, I think. And
Huh.
so they're not regarded as satanic because of either a name or how dark or evil they sound per se. It's also just like what it represents, you know. But if you know about Satanism, it's like power, pride, all of that kind of stuff. So like Stars and Stripes Forever, that song, da 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 da, that song, that's considered satanic because it's all about pride and, you know, liberty, just being proud of yourself and what you've achieved, which is kind of the gist of being a Satanist.
Glad we had this talk.
So bands I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this, like what guys are Satanists that I know of or suspect or I thought were, but I mean, there's a couple of bands who have members that are at least Satanists. Morbid Angel, Acheron, Impaled Nazarene, Rotting Christ, all the Greek bands, Verathron, Necromantia, multiple death metal bands, Blood Ritual.
Deicide?
No, fuck no. That guy's
Come on, Glenn Benton. He's
not at all.
The cross
That is
to his
exactly the
head.
kind of person that would not make it there. Burning
Really,
a cross
you know?
to your head and like constantly ranting and raving about God. That's like no better than being a Christian preacher. Like, what's his name? The Exorcist, that guy from Colorado. What's that guy's name? Bob something. There's a preacher who always is taking on the Church of Satan. Like he's always complaining about them and like taking them on, especially back in the 80s, doing the Satanic Panic thing.
Oh.
Bob Larson.
Did he like bait Glenn Benton one time?
He actually did. He debated Glenn Benton, Vincent from Acheron. There's been other musicians on his show. He would attack people like Pat Benatar and Bryan Adams, saying how evil and inappropriate they were. I'm like, come on, Bryan Adams.
He is pretty evil.
Out of here. So Bob Larson's a nut, but like now he doesn't do his show anymore. He goes around now on the road with his crazy family, and they do these exorcism things where they get like basically everybody shopping in a Walmart on a Sunday, like a bunch of old, fat, middle-aged, middle America housewives. And he puts his hand on their head and they start shaking and vibrating. He's like, I cast you out. I cast you out. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Everybody's just walking around possessed by the devil. I'm like, oh, you know, I feel so evil today. I'm going to go have a hot dog at Walmart and sit on a scooter, even though I can walk. That's how
that is.
Get the fuck out of here.
Well, you know, the Prince of Darkness has his ways.
So yeah, you know, Satanism is always good fodder for the movies, but it's all usually more so the B movie kind, where it's like raping of angels and drinking the chalice of blood and all that horse shit. Anton LaVey called The Exorcist Christian propaganda, and I think that's exactly what it is.
No, it totally is, dude. I love the movie, but it is very. I think the author William Blatty, or is that his name?
He was a big time Christian.
Yeah. And especially like I just recently read his book Legion, and it was even more Christian. And
that's the one I think that movie is based on, isn't it?
No, Exorcist 3 is based off Legion.
You know, it's funny because I have Exorcist 3 on DVD. That's actually kind of an entertaining movie. It's just a creepy supernatural thriller.
Yeah.
And that's not bad. But the first movie, it's like, okay, the devil's possessing this little girl and making her throw up and say obscene things. How's he going to take over the world by doing that? Or what's the point of this? So this
it wasn't the devil, though. It was Pazuzu. It was a demon.
Whatever. I'm like, but this grand evil creature cast from heaven wants to, like, do what? Like, offend a housewife in middle America and New York? Okay. What's the point of that? Like, oh, yeah, let's make her head spin around and vomit and do obscene. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna take over the world.
I think the demon was just like, it was opportunistic. So she got possessed because she was messing around with the Ouija board, and I think it was just an opportunistic demon. Like it was like the first soul, you know, first available vessel it could possess. Just happened to be a little girl playing with the Ouija board. She opened the door, though.
I don't remember that in the movie. Was that in the book?
Yeah.
So it was in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where she starts. It was not in the movie. In the movie, she was just possessed. I'm like, okay.
No, she was in the movie she plays with the Ouija board. Remember the scene? She's like, Captain Howdy.
She just was talking about it, like it never showed her playing. I maybe not. I don't
Oh,
know.
it does. Yeah, you got to watch the movie again because
I
it
don't want to
does.
watch it again. That movie disturbed me because I saw it as a young kid, like in single
Oh,
digit
it's
age.
scary as fuck, dude.
Well, that, and I was also really sick with the fever and everything, and my brother put it on. I'm like, what the fuck are you making me watch? And I was scarred by that movie. And I had, and check this out, I had horrible nightmares, even as an adult, for years based on like possessed girls and stuff, like brutal, brutal, scary,
Yeah.
offensive dreams that if I would have written them down and put it on paper, people would be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I
Oh,
just
it's a
had these
powerful
dreams.
movie, man.
Well, it was based on that movie, and that thing was disturbing. The image of the girl with the glowing eyes and just the voice and all of that. So it used to just really freak me out. And I loved
Oh,
like
yeah.
old music and satanic and all that stuff. But that got to me. But get this. Once I started to figure out who Anton LaVey was, I started having these dreams of those exorcist things, but Anton LaVey would suddenly be there. Or I'd have like a silver trident in my hand and I would stab the exorcist girl in the head and be like, shut up. Like it would be like, ah! And I'd
Ah, you
shut up.
got
And I'd stab her
empowered.
in the head. And not only that, but I would also be at a circus sometimes. And the relation there is Anton LaVey used to be a carny organ
Yeah.
grinder. He worked in a circus as a lion tamer. So, and I didn't know that yet about him. So I didn't know anything about Anton LaVey. I was like, oh, that bald Church of Satan guy with the snake was in my dream. And I kept dreaming about him. And every time I had an exorcist dream, it would somehow, my subconscious would implant Anton LaVey.
Ah,
So that's what I really got interested in Satanism for, was that. And it wasn't
that's
until years
interesting.
later someone gave me that CD when I was doing my radio show and I listened to what he had to say and it made ultimate sense. I was like, holy shit. I've always thought this stuff, and now I know why this guy was in my dreams killing the exorcist girl, or empowering me to do it. And I do not
Ah,
have dreams anymore.
huh.
So there you go.
It's
Super
really
positive
interesting.
Satan story.
Yeah. To go back, she did play with the Ouija board. And that's
Yeah,
how she got possessed.
whatever, who cares? Ninth Gate's far more eloquent of a satanic movie.
Yeah, I like scary movies though. Like I like scary, like those are the only things that kind of scare me are like demonic possession movies, like The Conjuring, Exorcist.
I hate movies about that. I hate them all. I hate possession stuff. I think it's fucking dumb. Based on a true story, my ass. Somebody might
Yeah.
somebody might be schizophrenic, but I mean, no. You're not possessed by a demon. Fuck off.
But you know, you got to suspend your disbelief to,
Nah, I don't want to see movies like that. If I'm gonna watch demon movies, I want to watch Hellraiser.
Ow, Hellraiser.
Mark, you
I will
open
consume
Mark.
your soul.
We came to listen to Prague with Mark.
I have such sights to show you.
Yeah. I have such bands to show you.
Yeah, what if that was the whole plot of Hellraiser was just like they drag people and make them listen to like Dream Theater. You will suffer.
That would be terrible.
Yeah. We're listening to Rush starting from the first album all the way to Clockwork Angels, and you'll sit here and like it while the Cenobites prance around in odd
Now,
time signatures.
how about we go back to some older bands like, say, Black Sabbath or any of those? Do you think they were satanic?
No, I think and I think they've even said it. Like they sung about that stuff because they were scared of it, like in a Christian sense. But I think that's what a lot of metal is kind of singing and exploring things that are frightening to the people that are making the music. It's just like I think we've talked about it before. It's like kind of a way to explore taboos and just generally sort of frightening things in a fairly safe, or at least a healthier way than actually acting out on it. But no, I don't think there was. I'm trying to think if there was any. There was some bands in the '70s that I think were actually satanic though. Isn't there a band called Satan? Kind of a hippie doom '70s band.
It's not called Satan. There's been a lot of bands. There was a band in the '80s called Satan. They were like a technical thrash band from San Francisco, I think.
Really?
They weren't evil or anything. They just had the name Satan because they were trying to be a heavy metal band or whatever. But there was a band called Satan's Friend. There was another band called, I think, Lucifer or Lucifer's Mask. I can't
Oh,
remember.
maybe that was the one, Lucifer.
Lucifer or Lucifer's Mask or Black Mask. It had a girl singer, and it was from the late 60s. It was like
Yeah,
really
yeah.
obscure.
That's
And the
what I'm
funny
thinking
thing about
about.
that is the book Lords of Chaos brought that up to light, and then like not many people knew about it until it showed up in the book Lords of Chaos. So now that band is indeed actually around again, reformed,
Uh-huh.
making music, doing shows, and they also had a crazy like Black Mass show and like a Black Mass live on stage and all this like the altar, and she was kind of hot and like wore a robe and she was naked underneath. Let's see, Satanism in music. Who else would there be? I know Belial was also a band from Finland. It's members of Impaled Nazarene. It might be the same guy as an Impaled Nazarene. That's the Satanist. I think Beharit, but I don't know. At least he's at least read the books because I've heard quotes in his music that are directly lifted from the Satanic Bible.
Well, and who can forget King Diamond, Merciful
And
Fate.
King Diamond is or was a member of the Church of Satan for the longest time. I've heard rumors that he found God. Is that true? I think
No,
he's like Catholic or something now, or Christian anyway.
no, no. I think he's still like Church of Satan.
So yeah, King Diamond. I forgot about that one. Merciful Fate. Off the top of my head, I can't think of
Dude,
any.
I was listening to Merciful Fate, Melissa, the other day. You haven't heard a lot of Merciful Fate, have you? Like, have you ever really explored their music?
Not
Like,
really.
I know his voice is a little hard to get past.
Never heard much of it. I mean, I don't really know it at all. I know some of his solo stuff. I'm like, whatever. It's not my thing, but I don't hate it or anything. But I've not heard much of Merciful. I've heard a few songs that I thought
Dude,
sounded pretty dark, and they look dark. But I guess when you really
yeah.
hear them, I don't know. I haven't heard more than like a song or two. I can't say.
Dude,
Just he got
there's a
me.
song. There's a song called Satan's Fall. It's like 10 minutes long. That song has so many good riffs in it. Like it has enough riffs in that song for like a full album of any other band. And that song you can really hear where a lot of other bands like were influenced by him. That's kind of why I thought that's Merciful Fate is kind of interesting in that way. Like I can hear a lot of their influence, like musically, not necessarily like vocal wise, because I think most people would probably, even big fans of Merciful Fate, would be like, yeah, his voice is can get a little bit on the irritating side.
Well, the
But
music is
man, there's some,
enough it could carry the voice and kind of like counter,
yeah,
juxtapose.
it
Yeah,
does.
say. But I haven't really ever given it a chance. It's just never one of those bands I never just got around to hearing really. And the voice, I was like, oh, I know his voice. Yeah, I'll pass. But
Yeah, I mean, I would just say if you just listen to one song, just listen to that Satan's Fall, and it's almost like that one song defined like a whole bunch of bands. Like it's pretty crazy. Like everything from like Slayer to like I hear Slayer, I hear Fate's Warning, like the early Fate's Warning stuff. I think they were really heavily into Merciful Fate. Um, yeah, I don't know why I thought about that, but that's just such a good fucking song.
now here's the thing: is we actually touched on this. I don't know if it was off the air or on the air or what show it might have been, but we talked about Venom and just how absolutely ridiculous Venom were with because they coined the term black metal for their third album or their second album actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have Merciful Fate records in my hard drive. I don't know where I got them from, but I have them. Melissa, In the Shadows, and Don't Break the Oath. I guess those are the three important ones, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the one I think it's on Melissa is Satan's Fall. Like that's the only like
Yep.
all their other songs are pretty good, but that song is like such a standout to me. Like mainly because there's just so many riffs in it. Like it has like it's almost like it has movements, you know, like where every new section starts with just a killer guitar riff and it's raw sounding. Like it's an old like I think it was like 1980. So the guitar sounds like this sort of like probably heavy at the time, but it's not very heavy. It's almost like, you know, back then, you know, they kind of had to make do with whatever distortion they could pull out of their amps, and that's what makes that music kind of cool. It's because it's like, okay, we don't have that high gain guitar amp technology yet for like thrash and death, but we still have to make this sound doomy and evil, you know. So it's kind of interesting to hear how they could still kind of accomplish that with just sort of like the limitations of the gear back then.
Well, I don't know. I'll have to listen because King
But you
Diamond's
know,
stuff is a little too like that kind
yeah,
of going on, and I just can't get into it. It's not that it's bad. I know King Diamond is dark. The song Grandma or whatever, it's okay. It's not really my style. It's not what I'm into. But that was then. That was a long time ago. I mean, I'm a little bit different now. I like different stuff. I still like the old stuff, but
I would almost describe like that, Melissa, that album in particular, is almost like a heavy Deep Purple. Like is almost like if Deep Purple went really evil. That's almost how it sounds to me. Like I said, it almost sounds like classic rock, but just dark and like twisted. Just
I don't
really
know.
cool. I recommend. But you know what's funny? You mentioned Venom. Like, there's a band that like I have not, like, I've heard their music, but I've never actually actively explored their stuff. Because to me,
Okay.
like it always just seemed like it would be like sloppy and simplistic in a way.
And you're right, it is. It's absolute trash. The earlier back you go, it's fucking rubbish. And it's funny because they have a thing with Raven. They hate the band Raven, and make fun of Raven. I'm like, Raven are more accomplished musicians than you guys are. Of course, Raven aren't quite the iconic band Venom is, but
Yeah.
Venom are absolute tosh, as they would say overseas. Some of their old stuff is okay, but they have an album called The Singles, 80 to 86 or something like that, or whatever the years were. And it's all their good songs. So if you buy their albums, some of those songs aren't on those albums, but there is a single from that album where the other side of it was these songs on the singles collection. So I got the albums, Welcome to Hell, Black Metal, and At War with Satan, and to me, they're fucking garbage. I'm sorry. I just don't like it. I mean, maybe back when it came out in 1980, if you were looking for the heaviest thing, it was great. Because look at me with Carcass's first album and Napalm Death Scum. Everybody's gonna go, in 20 more years, like that's fucking garbage. How did that kick the scene? You suffer like that's it. Like that's not a song. And but with Venom, they had this sloppy noise, and their Satanism, quote unquote, was just ridiculous. Not even B movie; it was like C movie. We drink the vomit of the priest, yada yada yada. We rape the angels and the nun. Like whatever. Come on. And people were in an uproar in the '80s, and it was right at the peak of what's known as a satanic panic.
Oh yeah.
The time of the 80s where everybody and their dog, like Geraldo, Oprah, and any random news magazine, you had people saying, oh, I was raped by Satanists. There were men standing around me with shotguns masturbating on me, and they had babies, and I was having babies, and they would take the babies out, and like I was a birthing machine. I'm like, oh, fuck, where is this coming from? And we'd sacrifice cats. Like, no, okay, there might have been somebody doing that to you, lady, but they were not Satanists. Sorry.
Oh, to me, that's just an average weekend.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You're just chilling out, like
just getting chizzed on by some shotgun wielding Satanists.
Yeah, that's what you like. So, anyways, Venom comes out during Satanic Panic, and people were just like in a complete uproar. And the more they did that, the more Venom did what they did, and it got them attention.
Right.
That's why.
They knew. That's one thing I'll say about Venom. They knew exactly what they were doing.
They were the Kiss of their time, of the thrash metal scene, because that's what Kiss did in the 70s. Gene Simmons would come out and say, I am evil incarnate, and he'd stick his tongue out. He looked like a demon, and like that got them attention. And Gene Simmons himself was quoted as saying, any press is good press, especially bad press, or something to that effect.
Which is why Kiss they never like flat out denied that their names stood for like Knights in Satan's Service.
Well, they did, in retrospect, but not like at that time.
At the time, yeah, they're just like, well, let them believe it,
Venom, same thing, and like we're eating it up. He was like, more that kids were told they can't have Venom records. What do you think kids did? They went out and bought Venom records, and behind them.
Do you remember when AC/DC stood for Antichrist, Devil's Children?
Yep, there's that one. If you put the Led Zeppelin 4 album cover, the gatefold up to a mirror, it makes a jackal head. If you turn Dio's logo upside down and cover parts of it,
devil.
Yep.
Yep, and then Wasp was We Are Satan's People, but I think Wasp was We Are Sexual Perverts.
That is exactly what it was, because it's inscribed in the record leader at the end of their vinyl record on their first album, We Are Sexual Perverts.
Did not know that. Now he's someone that
He's found God, hasn't he?
Yeah, he found God.
But Venom is interesting because they kickstarted this whole thing, and in interviews they'd be like, Satan who? And they laugh about it, meaning, oh, we're not really Satanists. But Venom really don't like Glenn Benton at Deicide because they hate how abrasive he is about it. And the weird thing about this is that interview where they said that was in the 90s, and the 90s Venom is very different from 80s Venom. Like they're more mature, they're darker, and they really have been reading the Satanic Bible because I can tell by some of their lyrics. They're less silly and a little bit more well thought out, like more mature lyrics. Obviously they're older, but still you can tell that they've been reading it. And they actually, and I have a book called Lucifer Rising, written by Gavin Baddeley, who was a Satanist at that time.
I think I might have had that book too. I don't know where it went, but
yeah, and in that book, Kronos, I believe, of Venom, or maybe I think it was somebody else, like the drummer. I don't. It's one of the guys from the original Venom was kind of talking shit on Benton, saying he's full of shit and he's like making all these outlandish, doing these dumb things, burning his forehead and saying all this stupid shit. But he's not really a Satanist, and I'm calling him out. And they actually said, we read the Satanic Bible in that interview, I believe, and they actually kind of resonated with it more than they thought they would back in their days in the 80s.
Mm.
So that was interesting. And it was right around the time of this album that came out that was called, well, there was Cast in Stone when the original band got back together. It was a really good album. And then after that, they did an album where the drummer had left again. But Kronos, the singer's little brother, Anton, was the drummer, and he brought a new element to the music that was much more heavy and a little more technical. So it drove the band to be a little bit more tight. And that album was called Resurrection. That came out in 95 or somewhere in there, mid-90s. Really, really good album. By far the best Venom album.
Okay.
Good songs, good lyrics, good songwriting, everything. It's so good. It was like just spot on.
Said I might have to check out some of the later Venom then.
I can send you that one. That's one I really like. And then after that, they put out an album called Metal Black, like the, black metal in reverse, and that wasn't so good. But and then after that, Venom's one of those bands who are now split up into two camps, Venom and Venom Inc. And it's like the one guy, Demolition Man, with the drummer, and then it's the other guy, or the guitarist. I don't know who did what, but then Kronos is in the other one, and it's just dumb. But it looks like they figured out their Satanism and got it on par with what's real and versus the story time stuff. So. Interesting.
I can't remember, like, I think there was like an interview. I don't remember who it was with, but I want to say it was with like Glenn Benton. And someone like asked him like, what would happen if, because I think Glenn Benton actually is an atheist, he just, once again, just does the imagery kind of thing. But someone like asked him like, what if when you die, you find yourself in hell? And you find out it's all true, and you were on the wrong side of it. You'd be like, I think I would say, oops. It was actually a really funny answer.
I wonder if Glenn Benton even really thinks about that kind of stuff, if he's just...
He reminds me more of like, just sort of like a biker dude. Much less than like an evil, scary guy. And I hear he's like super friendly and nice, so I got a soft spot for him.
Oh, do you?
Yes, I think he's the type of guy that like probably helped my mom with the groceries. Like I think he's actually probably a super nice guy. I like nice guys that are misunderstood, like you.
Am I misunderstood?
No, I understand you. You're a good guy.
I don't know. I'm starting to wonder.
Well, that shows what you're just. A
hey,
big
I'm single,
softy.
ladies. What's that?
You're just a big softy. Just a sensitive guy.
Well,
He's not afraid to cry.
I got accused of being exactly the opposite of that by the now ex-girlfriend. So it was not true, but in a way, kind of it was. But
just don't know how to show it.
A lot of people are like that. That's another thing going back to Satanism is that most Satanists do not brag about, unless the topic comes up and you can really trust the person you're talking to. They don't advertise that they're Satanist. Some do. Most do not. You would never know. It could be a guy with short hair. There's a lot of police officers that are Satanists. There's a lot of politicians who are Satanists, and that's not really making a good case for them. But
I was going to say.
But I mean, a lot of people there are like
the worst people in the world are Satanists. Yeah.
Well, there are athletes. There are doctors. I mean, there's a lot of people. Like if you go back to celebrity status. There was a few celebrities. There were a few celebrities who were Satanists going, especially in the 60s, but I think that was more because of the paparazzi surrounding LaVey when he first came onto the scene. So you had Sammy Davis Jr. was a Satanist, which is amazing because he's a black Jew. That's already an anomaly there. You have Jane Mansfield was an honorary kind of member for a while. She had a thing with LaVey for a time, and there's rumors that he had a thing with Marilyn Monroe, but she was never like a member. Marilyn Manson was bestowed as a priest of the Church of Satan by Anton LaVey because he approved of what he was doing. Not so much his actual music, but like the way he presented it, like the shock rock style. He was like, embracing Satanism and doing it in a way that was like shock rock, but yet semi-intelligent to the masses. I can't remember precisely what the basis was, but I don't
That
really.
wasn't the best move on his part.
What's that?
That's kind of like not really a good selling point.
Not really. I mean, most celebrities that have been in there have either been there because they just wanted to check it out and be, with their evil friends for a while. Look at me over here, Hollywood, or else it was just bestowed on them because LaVey thought it was a good idea, or somebody thought it was a good idea. I don't know. But I'm not a fan of Marilyn Manson, but I don't know anything about his music. But I guess because of the way he would have like a pentagram on some of his records, or just talked about certain stuff, it was like it jived with them somehow. I mean, the name Marilyn Manson, it's like Marilyn and Monroe and Charles Manson. It's like from the 60s. It's like all stuff that happened when the COS was first forming. So
yeah.
But I don't like Marilyn Manson's music, and he's not done anything since then with the Church of Satan. It's just like, it was like, yeah, cool, thanks, and that was about that. So
I think he's even in trouble for sexual assault now.
apparently he got cleared on that. That's what I heard.
All it takes is the accusation.
I don't know. It was Venom. Who else was there? I know the guys in Rotting Christ. They're all kind of in the same bands, like Verathron and Necromantia, all those Greek black metal bands. They're one or all of them are all members, or they were, and in the 80s they were. And that's the thing is, when you used to write to those guys, which I used to do, they would be like, don't write the band name on the envelope. Like, don't write Rotting Christ on the envelope, because Greece was super religious, and like, I think it was against the law to like display that kind of stuff or anything. They're like,
yeah, it's a blasphemy laws, I guess.
Yeah, like they were like very adamant. If you write to us, do not draw pentagrams or write the band name, or don't write anything like that. Just do a plain envelope. So I used to write to some of those guys, the guy from Necromantia, for quite a while, which was interesting because they were really into it. Like he also mentioned he was into he didn't say an organization, but he was also like a follower of a vampire cult or something. And I asked him about it because the name was Vampiri with a W. And the reason why that was interesting to me, because at that time I was very, very much into Brian Lumley, a British horror author who has a vampire novel called Necroscope. There's a whole series. They're excellent vampire books. He's my favorite author.
I think I've seen those books.
Yeah, I'm rereading those right now, all of his books. But in that, the vampires are called a Vampiri with the W. So I was like, oh, you're a Vampiri. What do you mean? Like, and he kind of went into it, but not too much. So he said, you just have to find your own path. And that's also a very cryptic satanic thing. It's like, well, I'm not going to tell you how to be a Satanist. If you don't get it, you don't get it.
Yeah, you find your,
a rich movie star and just come. You got to like work your way there and figure it out for yourself, jackass,
vampires, yeah.
There's another funny story for you is Acheron. Do you know that, man?
Yeah.
Acheron is related closely to Nocturnus and Morbid Angel. They're Satanist. And Mike Browning of Nocturnus was in Acheron for a while after he left Nocturnus after their first album. But Vincent Crowley, the singer of that band, was a Satanist for many years. And I bought their record, and it had this interlude piece between each song played on an organ by Peter Gilmore, who was then a Satanist and is now the high priest of the Church of Satan. And it was really cool because their music itself, I was kind of like indifferent. I was like, it just sounds like kind of Sabbath-y inspired death metal. It's like nothing great to me. It was okay. But those interludes were really cool. It was like this pipe organ and like all this dun 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 classical stuff, and then this voice like, I am the Lord of the Abyss. And I thought that's cool, like all these interludes. And that got me interested in the Church of Satan too, because I thought that's fucking dark. You know, that's not even like metal. It's cool as fuck. It's so evil. So then I decided that I got into this other stuff, this ritual occult music that I found, like completely unrelated to metal. So it's people like playing like flutes made of bones from graves they dug up, like in underground crypts in Europe. Things like that, like super, super rare, limited CDs. You can't find them anywhere. Like it's totally limited, like to like 200 copies. And I got all of them of each artist. So, and they're not even artists or bands. They're like actual, it's like ritual music. It's like for rituals. It's not meant to be like a band.
Right.
So I got this music and I was way into it around the time I was doing my radio show. And I thought, okay, Acheron, they think they're really evil, don't they? So I wrote to Acheron and the address in their CD. I'm like, hey guys, I got your album. It's pretty cool. But if you want to hear some really evil music, let me know and I'll send you a tape. And kind of a cocky motherfucker. So then Vincent Crowley of the band sent me back a letter. This was funny. And I signed my name, the Master Butcher, which was my call name on the radio show, right? So I get a letter immediately from California. It says MB, direct, addressed to MB, Master Butcher. Didn't write anything. He just sent me this big packet of stuff with like a thing to join the Church of Satan and a thing to join the Order of the Evil Eye, all this legit stuff. They had all these evil symbols on it. And I was immediately like freaked out a little bit because like, whoa, what did I get myself into? Fuck. Like these guys are the real deal. Holy shit, I was wrong. And like I never wrote to him again about it. But I still have those somewhere. And it was funny because I was a cocky motherfucker because I found this dark stuff that I thought was evil, and it is in a way. It's actually not evil. It's not meant to be, but it sure sounds that way because there's like chants like oh like that and just whatever. But so I was going to send him a tape of that, and then he sent me that all these packets and pamphlets and stuff about satanic doctrine, and I was like, oh shit, these guys are the real deal. I better just shut the fuck up. So, it's a funny story, I was like, I used to kind of be that way, a little bit rambunctious. I know you'll find that hard to believe, everybody, but
yeah,
Acheron, and that was funny too because they also came out with a few albums that I just kind of didn't really get into, and then they had an EP called Zomali, and I got it in at my record store at the Abyss, and I really liked that one. It was 4 tracks, 2 intros, 2 songs. And I was like, man, this is good. They really hit the nail on the head here. I hope the next album's like this. Then the next album came out. It was like really raw, underproduced, like kind of almost black metal-y, like screaming and screeching. And I was disappointed. I'm like, this sucks. This isn't at all like that last EP. Like, why? Why couldn't they do more? It just always happens that way. Their bands will hit a nail on the head like perfectly, and then they just lose that style the next release. But they still stayed satanic through the whole thing. So there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Think
about that.
We'll have to ponder and pray about it.
I don't think you know any satanic bands, do you? Is anybody from Dream Theater a Church of Satan member?
No.
They're probably all going to church, huh? What about that? How many bands do we know that are like radical Christians or something, or Baptist or Muslims or something?
Probably quite a few. I know Striper, of course.
Are they still like that way, or did they kind of give that up? I thought I saw a video where it kind of like implied that they weren't really religious anymore.
No, I think a lot of those Christian bands they wanted to stay like Christian, but they wanted their music to be more secular. One of my favorite bands is they're called Galactic Cowboys, and they're all vocal Christians, but they say we're not a Christian band, but we're a band of Christians. I think a few bands have actually said that, King's X used to be kind of known as a Christian band, but then Doug Pinnick, the singer, kind of came out as gay and fell away. But I think the other 2 members...
Pain of Salvation or something like that, POD something, like from the 90s?
Not Pain of Salvation, but POD, I think, they were like a new metal band that was Christian.
What were they? Pain of what? Hey, what was?
Payment on Delivery, I think it was that acronym. But Pain of Salvation is a different band completely. They're like a prog metal band, but I don't think they're Christian. at all.
Probably Scientologists then.
I don't know what they are. Like, I never got into them too much, even though they were, they were part of the whole prog metal scene, with Dream Theater and all of that. But, well, we all know Slayer, Tom Araya is a Catholic.
Why would he be Catholic and do all that he's done in Slayer? Like, why? I don't get it.
Well, once again, I think his explanation was like, Slayer just sings about, they're exploring, once again, the dark side of human nature.
But in the beginning, it was all super satanic, though.
Uh-huh.
Every album cover had a pentagram and demons in hell and all this other stuff, and it was all like Satan, this and that, and like all the way up to South of Heaven. At least after that, it kind of seemed like it just got into just like general misanthropy and war and whatever. But
yeah, I think it just once again, I think
Slayer that's funny is that God Hates Us All was released on September 11th, 2001.
Yeah, that was pretty clever.
Timing, guys, timing. Holy shit.
You gotta hand it to them, man. They leaned into it when they did. So it's just like,
I don't think it was planned. I think it just happened to be coming out today, and then boom. Like,
but that's what I mean. They didn't really backpedal on it. They're just like, ooh, yeah, that's pretty crazy, isn't it?
It's a new conspiracy theory. Slayer caused 9/11 to happen so they could sell records.
Yeah, why not? Do you think they'll ever get back together? I think Tom Araya's done.
I think he's done.
Yeah.
But his kids are kind of old now, so maybe he will. But what else would he do? I don't know. It strikes me, if you're a musician, especially like that kind of music, like what else would you or could you do? I mean, I guess you don't need to do anything, but once you're sitting around at home after a couple of days, you're going to go crazy. So you got to do something.
I'll tell you with Tom Araya, I think he wants to be like good grandpa.
Oh, no.
Like, he seems like such a sweetheart, and I think he just wants to be like the gentle grandpa that just takes care of the grandkids. He's retired, sits on the porch, strums an acoustic guitar. I get kind of like a guy that's just like paid his dues.
I lost interest in Slayer, like, just when South of Heaven came out, it was such a downer because it wasn't fast or anything. I was like, well, this is dumb. This is just heavy metal now. Why are they doing that? They just blasted it with like Rain and Blood. Now it's like, this is all like slow, like dun 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 dun. Like, yeah, I mean, it was good. I liked it. But yeah, at that time, thrash was the craze. It was just like, how can you come out with a slow record now after all that? But they've been doing it for a while. Like, and it seems like, well, they came out right around that time. They had already been doing it, but then at that time, that's when all the other bands like Creator and all of that were starting to get more popular. But then that's when they started to water down their sound a little bit and go for straight up speed instead of like the heaviness, like the socio-political lyrics, instead of like just demons and all of that and death. And that's, of course, where probably you got into it and where I got off the bus. Like, oh, fuck these guys now. They're selling out. Like, time to go somewhere else. That's when I just discovered the Grind Crusher, which opened up a whole new avenue. I'm not a big guitar guy, but from what I hear from them, it sounds like a lot of like really under-talented playing on their older stuff. It sounds like it got, really got picked up a lot, like in later years. But after that, it was like too technical for me. I'm like, they were good. They put on a good show. Like, Creator is one of those bands that was fun to say you were there. They actually thanked Salt Lake City in one of their records because they had such a crazy audience here back in the days.
Yeah, Utah, we had a scene. I mean, I still get blown away by the heavy metal shop. Like, how that's like become like this institution where you could go to Vok and see someone wearing a heavy metal shop t-shirt.
Well, it is. I mean, but that's the thing.
Proud of Utah.
Salt Lake City, Utah, where it's known for Mormons, you've got this black t-shirt with the skull. It's known to sell all the stuff that Mormons hate. So of course there's that. And Ranch is the same way, but Ranch is a little less popular because it's just called Ranch. And really at the time,
they were more punk.
What's that?
Weren't they more punk, hardcore?
Well, he is. I got most of my metal at Ranch. I got a lot at both stores, but Ranch got in a lot of it early on. But also, Ranch kind of disappeared. He closed out shop after a while, and then Kevin was here for that whole thing with like the thrash, black metal, and Brad wasn't even around anymore with Ranch. Then he came back. Then I had the Abyss, the greatest record store that this world has ever seen.
I know, dude. I loved your store.
Yeah, it was weird because it went out of business because I couldn't keep stuff on the shelves and pay the bills, but people were buying stuff. At least.
Did you just have like was your lease like maybe just a little shitty or?
No, I mean, it was what it was. It wasn't terrible. I can't remember how much it was. It was like
just like
$800 something a month for a little like strip mall thing. That's not horrible. At the time,
You
it was
just gonna
just
keep employees and
what sucked is I probably should have kept my job and not done just that. But I mean, my idea was if I'm there, I'm going to be there all the time. Then I won't have to pay any employees, and I'll just make the money off the shop. But that wasn't really a breadwinner kind of job.
no, no, it's a labor
Then
of love.
I had four employees. I had Chris and Meredith, the couple who worked at the other music shop in the mall, T's and
Yeah,
Keys, and they were the Mortiz, Fintroll, like happy black metal kids, Cradle of Filth, and then there
oh
was
yeah, yeah. No,
Jack.
Chris was the one. Like I said, he was the one that about kicked my ass because I said uh, Cradle of Filth wasn't true black metal.
They're not. They're not even close. They never were. They'll even tell
I
you
know,
that.
dude, but he about leaped over the counter. I swear to God,
Well,
it
we
was
always
hilarious.
get shit all the time about it too. So we call
Well, I
him crazy.
know, because and that's the reason I said it, because I think it was either you or someone else that said, just like, dude, just say that. It's almost like, if someone said to go up to JR and say Cold Lake is the best Celtic Frost album, but it was kind of a joke, Someone's like, just go up to Chris and say, yeah, Cradle of Filth, they're not true black metal, dude, and I
Well,
just did that,
that would be
and he just bristled.
yeah, that would be my other two employees, Zach and Ricky. They were both like avid
Yeah,
lovers of
it was Zach.
Norwegian black metal and death metal, and then they'd fuck with him. Plus, he'd get so emotional about it. That's why they'd fuck with him about it. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, dude. He like puffed up like a viper. It was crazy. But yeah, man. What do you think, dude? Do you think little shops, like, do you think those could ever come back? Little brick and mortar, like another little brick and mortar place. Like, do you think those will ever be a thing, or do you think they're pretty much done?
well, you know what? Ranch is still in business and he sells music, but he also does do skateboards and stuff. That's his main source of income, I think. I don't know. I personally think the CD is going to make a comeback because records and tapes have both enjoyed comebacks. But the problem with Americans is they're so quick to jump on the new technology and discard what's old but not necessarily obsolete. We've gotten rid of CDs and DVDs already, and I now hear people talking shit about Blu-rays, saying they want DVDs again. So.
Huh.
And to be honest with you, I've been taking CDs in the car a lot because it makes you listen to the whole album all the way through and you appreciate it more
Yeah.
instead of just picking up your phone and skipping through this song, this song, this song, or making a playlist and just put
I
on
do that
music
all the time.
and whatever
Dude,
comes on.
I'll spend like fucking all day making a playlist, like my perfect playlist, and then never listen to it again. I spend so much energy making like my favorite like a playlist, and I can't wait to listen to this playlist, and I'll make it, and I'll never want to listen to it again. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me.
Well, it gets old, but if you listen to a band, like I've been listening to some Accept records lately and some Judas Priest, it's good to listen to it all the way through because you're like, oh
Sure.
yeah, I remember all these songs and these are good songs. And
I did the other day listen to a playlist I made of my favorite Warrant songs, and it was pretty good.
well, I don't know. I think the CD, it's hard to say because they have not gone away in other countries. That's my point. Is only Americans do that where they got to have the next biggest thing. And like now digital is the big thing and it's easy and convenient. But the worst part of all that, aside from easy and convenient, is that everybody wants it for free. So you have
Oh
all
yeah,
these
yeah.
young kids, like all these young kids who work at my restaurant who have no concept of going to the store and buying music or just taking a chance on the band just on the cover or because it's
Oh
on the
yeah.
that or
That'll never come back,
or
unfortunately.
there's you look at the band photo and there's a guy with a Napalm Death shirt. So you buy it because you think, okay, well that guy's got a Napalm Death shirt, so I kind of know how this music's going to sound. You might be right, or
Yeah.
you might take a chance to get stung because you buy like the Dangerous Toys record because there was a guy on the back with a Death shirt on in the band lineup, but they don't sound anything like Death. They probably sound more like Guns N' Roses or something. So
Yeah, but are you kidding, dude? That first Dangerous Toys album is fucking awesome.
I knew you were going to say that.
This is one of my favorite albums. The song Scared is amazing. And yeah, like they were like when everybody was listening to Guns N' Roses and losing their shit over GNR, I was like, Dangerous Toys, man. That's my Guns N' Roses.
And what about TSOL, the old punk band? They came back with kind of a gritty Guns N' Roses kind of vibe there for a minute, didn't they?
I don't know. I was never into punk.
Well, they were. That's the thing, is you didn't have to be into punk because they were on Headbangers Ball and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I remember the band, but I don't.
They came. I only knew them from that, and I looked into them, and it turned out they were actually an old punk band from like years and years and years ago. But they at the time had a single called "The Name Is Love" by TSOL, and it was really just crappy like rock. And I was like, "What is this? This is shit." And there was a guy who looked like Gene Simmons, like Asylum era Gene Simmons with a headband.
Huh.
I'm like, "What's this guy? That guy looks like Gene Simmons. Like, what is this?" And like, it was TSOL, and that was "The Name Is Love" with the song. I can't remember the name of the album, but
I like just TSO.
what's that?
Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Oh yeah, that's Sabotage, right?
Which is basically Sabotage, yeah. Gotta hand it to them for really just cleaning up on that Christmas thing, man. Fucking, they destroyed Mannheim Steamroller.
Mannheim Steamroller was what? It was a new age band otherwise, right?
Yeah.
What new age band were they? Was that Tangerine Dream people?
No, I think they were called Fresh Air.
Oh yeah, Fresh Air, that's right. That was like a 90s thing for sure, wasn't it? 80s, 90s?
Yeah, but that Mannheim Steamroller Christmas show used to be the biggest thing until TSO
Yeah, I'm
came
waiting for
along.
the big comeback of Enigma. Remember
I
Enigma?
don't know. We might get that because Kate Bush is experiencing the comeback right now because of the Stranger Things.
You remember Enigma?
Oh yeah.
The Gregorian monk dance, the hip hop beat.
Yeah. I think that's one of their songs.
And Stranger Things, like their original theme is like actually one of those retro 80s like synthwave things.
Yeah, I really like that actually.
It's a cool song, but there's a whole scene out there. If you look up on YouTube,
well, isn't it called? What's it called? Not glitch, but fuck.
It's got like 3 letters of the same letter in the middle of the name. I can't remember. It's like not boy something, but it's
there's a certain I can't even think of it. But yeah, no, it's a very retro synth, and we were talking about it like on the last episode. It's that sort of like John Carpenter type stuff from the 80s,
I think it's called Teal.
Teal?
It's like Teal,
genre?
E-E-E-E-L or something, if I remember correctly. I'm looking it up here. Then again, I could be wrong. It could be just that, like, okay, here's what happened. There's a compilation on YouTube of synthwave stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it's called "A Future We'll Never Know" or something to that effect. So if you look it up, it's this 3-hour-long compilation of this like really like 80s MIDI keyboard stuff. It's actually really good. And in there it says there's a band called Teal, T-E-E-E-L, and it says Stranger Things theme. So I'm assuming that's the real theme because it sounds identical to the one on the show, unless they're covering it. But I mean, it sounds like the one on the show. Like, so, but I'm looking it up here. It doesn't say. It's just giving the composers names. But I guess because he's so famous now from that, he's probably going by his real name. So let's see. Let me put in Teal and see if that brings up anything. Yes, it does. Teal, musical artist. That's the one, baby.
Okay. So they are the Stranger Thing.
T-E-E-E-L. 3 E's. But anyway, on YouTube, there's a synthwave comp. It's called "A Future We'll Never Know," I believe is what it's called. And there's a lot of good stuff.
I might have to check that out.